Hello and welcome to Boomer Live once again, ladies and gentlemen. And today, here we are to talk about Afghanistan versus Australia. Big game in context of the World Cup because if you look, Afghanistan are just two steps away from a dream semi final. On the other end, so Australia want to seal their berth in the semi final by winning today. I have Jaren with me to talk about it. Jaren, what do you think in the context of the game? Because Afghanistan have won the toss and they've decided to bat first, which I think is an excellent decision given the fact that under lights and Wankhede, the ball does tend to seam around a lot.
Absolutely, and I think it also goes about how they want to, perform their cricket, where they are a team which likes to defend totals and restrict teams, and that's how they won their games. I mean, having said that, obviously they've done well when it comes to chasing as well against Sri Lanka and Pakistan before, but this is obviously the modus operandi they prefer, and you probably also would say that it helps, them kind of counter what a Mitch Stark can do under the lights in a pitch like how I mean, especially how Wankhede has performed in the past few matches, considering the Sri Lanka India game, for instance. So I think in many ways it gives them a little bit more advantage, especially if Fazalak Farooqi can do a lot better, initially.
Absolutely. You're right in pointing that out because if you look at Fazlak Farooqi, he himself has been one of the major players in terms of picking up wickets up front. But in this edition of the World Cup, you've also seen a little bit of skill set of him developing towards the lat front as well with the death bowling prowess which is developed, which is very impressive. But if you just look at what Afghanistan brings into the table, it's a spin attack. I mean, we have to talk about it more than anything else. The spin attack they've got, it's a potent spin attack. Let's be honest, they've all impressed us with that four spin attack they've got. But today in this match, there's no Fazilak Farooqi, so they've gone with Naveen Ulaq, which is a very good option as well because there's something about Naveen Ulaq time and time again that he gets that ball to grip in the surface. He gets the ball to come in from awkward angles, which is a very good trick or very good skill that he possesses. So I think it's not a bad option for Afghanistan to try him out for today's game. But let's just talk about this batting first approach as well, isn't it, Jaren? I mean, if you look, what could be an ideal score in Wankhede? Because at sometimes you just feel the dew does kick in, but if you can really take wickets up front, because they don't have the best of fast bowlers to take wickets up front, but if you still manage to take wickets up front with your spinners and try to put a break on Australia, they can tend to crack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you already spoken about, Australia are also the worst team according to major test playing nations in terms of facing spin in the last 1 year or so. They really haven't done well, and that's been one of the huge reasons why their middle order collapses have happened. Now it's going to be interesting to see how today works, right? With Steve Smith missing out due to vertigo, I think, and they've brought in I don't know who they've brought in now, but yeah, I mean, as far as I know, Steve Smith is definitely missing out. Yeah, it's a Mitch
He's been
Marsh who
missing
comes
out.
back.
They only brought in Mitchell
Mitch
Marsh
Marsh,
into that as a
yeah,
replacement. That's it. That's it. That's going to change.
break as well, which is a good for them. Might just give them a little bit more against spinners because Mitch Marsh does seem to be play that aggressive option, and I think now only Manas Levishan is the one batter who will be play that anchor role. So I think it balances them out in a weird way. You probably wouldn't say Steve Smith missing out is a good thing for any team, but I think in this case, just seems like might help them a lot more. Having said that, you're right about one thing though. The mid overs is going to be very important for Australia and how they manage against the Afghanistani spinners. Also, the fact that Mujib will most likely open the bowling against the likes of David Warner, which is a tactic which has been used for a while. I think someone like a Travis Head becomes even more important to counter that strategy from Afghanistan.
Absolutely. I mean, you're right in pointing that out. Sandipani as well joining us. Welcome, Sandipani, to the show. Firstly, Sandipani, I'll get to you straight up. If you look at the way how things have gone for Afghanistan in this World Cup, it's just been that they've been very matured in terms of how they've played their game. That'll be both of the ball and bat. They've had that game awareness, which we talk about a lot of teams which they haven't had. So you think that's going to really edge them because if you get a Travis Head or David Warner up front, then all of a sudden this team can be put under so much pressure because they're not the best players who spin. You can still say Steve Smith is one of the better players who spin in that entire top seven if you compare it with anybody else. And with that spin attack this Afghanistan team has got, they only know one way which to attack them out of the attack. They wouldn't know how to maybe you know take a single here or there, milk the runs. That is a very important facet in comparison to what Afghanistan does in this World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. And I think today batting first at Wankhede is probably the right choice. And I mean, if they can put pressure on the Australians picking up early wickets, because we know Mujib is going to operate in the power plays, and then you have Noor Ahmed and Rashid Khan coming in the middle overs as well. So I think it's a good ploy for them to win the toss and bat first. And also, I think Steven Smith is one player that is going to be missed by Australia, especially in today's game. I think in other games, I agree with Jerin to the point that they don't need I mean, both Marnus Labuschagne and Steven Smith in the team. But I mean, Steven Smith is a better player of spin than a Marnus Labuschagne, and Marnus Labuschagne is a player who can go at a strike rate of 70 to 80 with ease. But he is that player who cannot really accelerate at a time when Australia needs them to. So I think this Australian lineup with all rounders in play. I mean, Maxwell, David Warner, they are good players of spin, but I mean, they heavily depend on playing the sweep shots or the reverse sweep switch hits to score effectively against spinners. And you don't know, in a Wankhede, there might be that extra bounce that some of the spinners will get, say like a Rashid Khan or a Noor Ahmed, and that can probably come to their advantage, and then probably that extra bounce will cost them the wickets as well, because you don't really play cross batted shots well when there is a bit of bounce in the track.
Absolutely. Just looking at Mitchell Stark's first couple of balls, there's a lot of swing on offer there for Mitchell Stark. How important does this opening spell get, Jaron? Because we've spoken about this opening spell in Wankhede is the toughest, and if you can play that out both in the day and morning, then you're absolutely in to score runs. We saw that in India, Sri Lanka as well when Chamira was bowling to Virat Kohli. You had to survive that opening spell. Then once you survived it, you have plenty of runs on offer there.
Yeah, and that's going to be the tricky part, isn't it? I think for Australia, first and foremost, they need to pick up wickets with the new ball. While I totally understand, that there is a need to, I mean, ball well and ball the right line and length, and wickets is a process, is something that comes out of it. But they genuinely need to take wickets. And the reason I say that is because, this Afghanistan middle order is still not yet been tested as much as they would like to. They haven't really lost they haven't really lost clumps of wickets where they've lost 3 wickets in a row or 2 in a row and come back from it. I think India was, for example, is a very good example where they did lose a clump of wicket, then had a small partnership, again lost clumps of wickets.
Yeah,
So whenever that has happened, they tend to struggle. Against New Zealand as well, very similarly lost a clump of wicket. So here, importantly for Australia, grab a couple and keep plugging at it. And at least if you take a couple, I think you can put them under pressure, and maybe then throw in an Adam Zampa and force them to maybe play a
yeah.
few more shots, take a little bit of extra risk, and that's the way for Australia to go ahead with it, I think. But if you
True, I
just
agree
let
with
them,
you.
yeah, I mean, if you just let them carry on, I think they will end up at a 260, 270, which will not be easy considering Australia's spin playing prowess in the recent months and Afghanistan's strength is its spin attack.
Absolutely. The pitch looks very even though. There's an even covering of grass, what you see in the wicket, which makes the ball even come onto the bat better. And you'd really fancy your chances of scoring anything except 300 on this kind of deck. But Sandeepani, as we speak about Afghanistan's strength in the last couple of matches, as Jerry mentioned, was chasing. And they chased it down not in the most convincing way in terms of scoring 35, 30 overs. They took their time. Then that's going to bite them back because they're a team who likes to take their time, play low risk cricket. They're a team who plays less risky shots in both these chases. Sri Lanka, Pakistan, or even the Netherlands game, they're very comfortable chasing it down by biding the time. Sometimes when you bat first, you might have to go out of that comfort zone, isn't it? You'll have to score at a better strike rate, keep an eye what could be a power score on that wicket, which is so much unlike what they are comfortable chasing in.
Yeah, exactly, and that is why players like Rahmat Shah or a Hasmatullah Shahidi are important for this Afghanistan component to be there when they are chasing, to have a level head, and you have Jonathan Trott saying you in the press conference that the 2 points are more important than how they achieve it, or probably the net run rate as well. They were not too much focused on the net run rate; they were focused on winning the games, and hence they went with a more conservative approach. Because if you talk about Pakistan or England, both of them were higher rated in terms of I mean rankings. They were higher placed than this Afghanistan lineup. So I think they had that thing in them. Even as Sri Lanka, they were higher rated than Afghanistan. heading into the World Cup. No, probably. I mean, it's still a close battle when you compare Sri Lanka, but Pakistan and England were definitely better in terms of rankings. So you have to first of all assess that whether we are going to get a win. If you're going to get a win against some of the higher rated oppositions, then it's all about holding your nerves. We have seen lots of lower ranked sides or some of the weaker teams get really close to beating or creating an upset and then lose their composure and probably fall under
Yeah.
a collapse. And that is where the level-headedness of, say, a Hasmatullah Shahidi or a Rahmat Shah or a Azmatullah Omarzai as well is very, very
Mm.
important coming in at number 3, 4, 5. When they're batting first, like today, for instance, today, I think the innings of Rahmanullah Gurbaz, players like Rahmanullah Gurbaz, the young talents, Ibrahim Zadran, they become more important than a Rahmat Shah or a Hasbutullah Shahidi. You have seen number 3, number 4 for Afghanistan come in, take some time to get going, and then they play their strokes. And Afghanistan don't really bat too deep. I mean, you have players like Rashid Khan coming in at 8 and smacking the ball all across the place. But if you
Yeah.
talk about specialist batsmen, you will have a Mohammad Nabi or a Azmatullah Omarzai come in at number 5, who is an
Yeah.
all-rounder. Mohammad Nabi come in at number 6. Their wicketkeeper did get one half century. Ikram did get one half century in this tournament. But apart
Yeah.
from that, he hasn't really been tested. When Jedin
But
says
if you
this
look the
batting
last
order,
three games,
yeah,
none of the middle order was tested
yeah,
until
exactly.
after
When
number
Jadin
four.
says the middle order hasn't been tested, the lower middle order hasn't really been tested. Rahmat
Yeah.
Shah, Hasmatullah Shahidi, and Azmatullah Omarzai has been doing the job for them along with the openers, Ibrahim Zadran and Rahmanullah Gurbaz. So
Yeah.
I think this opening, the top 5, should put Afghanistan to a place and they shouldn't lose the first 4 wickets in the first 30 or 35 overs. If they can keep 7 wickets in hand heading into the 35th over, then they can go all out attacking. Even if they score at 4.5 runs per over for the first 30 to 35 overs, I won't be totally unhappy with them scoring, say, 150 for 4 at the end of 35, because they'll have that platform and they'll have players like Rashid Khan, Mohammad Nabi, and say even a Mujibur Rahman to come in and slog towards the later end of the game. And we have seen
Yeah.
the Australians have been really clinical in the middle overs, especially with Adam Zampa coming into form. Today you have a Maxwell as well, who is going to control the run flow in the middle. But the death overs bowling hasn't really looked convincing. You have a Mitchell Stark who is bowling really well in the power plays, but not being able to pick up. This has not been the Mitchell Stark of 2015 or 2019 World Cups. He
Yeah.
is lacking in wicket taking, in his wicket taking abilities. Pat Cummins has probably been their most stable pacer who is coming and bowling in the middle overs as well. So the death over concern remains. Hazelwood, Stark, Cummins, all are going for runs towards the later end of the game. So don't
I
lose
agree.
too many wickets early on. And I think with the intent that a Rahmanullah Gurbaz or a Ibrahim Zadran has, if they can somehow, stay in for the or play out a Mitchell Stark or a Josh Hazelwood when they are on form in the first 5 to 6 overs, I think if they can build a partnership for 15 to 20 overs, Afghanistan will easily score at a rate of 5 to 6 runs per over.
Absolutely. But we spoke about the Adam Zampa factor, but let's just talk about Australian batting as well. How does the owners really go on? Every match you're relying on Travis said David wanted to give you a start. Last match they did not, but you saw there was Ahmedabad is a high scoring ground, so you managed to score 280 odd. But and it was England's game. Let's be all honest. If it was some other team, they would have chased that down. It was a below par total on that wicket. Let's be very clear with that. You reckon that's going to really put them under pressure once again? That if they fail early on, that particular owners which might shift to a Manas Labuschagne today or a Glenn Maxwell today, that will be extremely tough for them to put a chase on anything except 280 to 90.
Yeah, I think what will hurt them more, it will also is the fact that I mean, they will feel good about the fact that they came back and they did come back strong. I think Adam Zampa has been one of those reasons why he's been the one player who's brought them back consistently, and we spoke about his importance as a player for this team when it comes to bowling, but I think major concern has also been someone like Mishtak. Now he might have balled well, or there are times he looks good in patches, but he's travelled for runs as well. And I think bigger issue is that it's not been the same Mitch Stark, that we've seen in the past two World Cups rather in 2015 and
Yeah,
2019, who was any Australian captain's go-to bowler when it came to taking wickets. That player has been really missing, to be very frank. And I think that is the one aspect of Australian bowling that has really hurt them a lot. Even a
yeah,
Pat Cummins, right? He's really not picked up a lot of wickets. So I think the Pacers have not really set the stage for spinners. And it's not to say that they haven't bowled well. I mean, I would still say they have, and in
Yeah.
fact, they have bowled better than most teams in this World Cup. But now that you are so close to, the semi-final spot, that it's almost confirmed that you will be the third team to go in, and until unless at least the ball is in your court as compared to some of the
Yeah.
other teams, and you would still say that they are lacking a lot because Adam Zampa is picking up wickets at the average of 17, strike rate of 18.
Yeah.
But other than that, everyone else is taking more than 5 overs to take a wicket. And Mitch Stark
Absolutely.
has been the one who's been the most surprising of them all with a 41
Yeah.
average. And I think in many ways, Mitch Marsh has done a better job in. I know he's only balled in 3 games, but he's gotten 2 wickets. He's picked up at a much lower average and a strike rate. So I think this World Cup hasn't also been easy on foreign pacers, right? Even a Trent Bolt, on the other hand, hasn't really lit the tournament on fire like he has last 2 games. So,
Yeah.
I mean, last 2 World Cups. So I think it is a problem that has plagued Australia, and maybe another spinner who could pick up wickets, right? Glenn Maxwell again, not been the most supportive bowler as we saw him in that India series. He's also
Yeah.
gone. He's not traveled for runs, yes, but he's not really picked up wickets either. So they need one more bowler who can start picking up wickets so that there's a little bit more threat in this bowling attack.
Absolutely. So couple of when did just come last night? Yeah, we are not there. So we'll talk about yesterday's incident. Okay, I think it's about time we talk about it. The Matthews incident. Another major reason why we love the Nagin Derby. It just keeps exciting us. Kushal Mendes and his boys did not shake hands with the Bangladesh team as well. Matthews had his own say that he was early, he was 5 seconds early, but the umpire said that he was 2 minutes and 10 seconds late. And the whole helmet thing. So let's talk about it. Let's start with Sandipani. First ever batter in the history of cricket, for the 148 long history of cricket, to get out timed out. And Shakib Al Hasan was been the first ever captain who's appealed for it, and he stood with that appeal. Matthews went and asked for it, claiming his helmet strap was not fitting, and he had come to the crease at the last moment. So the question over here is, as it's a matter of concern of safety, I mean, the rule says you should take the first ball within 2 minutes of the dismissal. Now, if your helmet strap is broken or anything which you have to do with helmet strap, it's a safety concern. Do you really have to face that first ball? Can't you, as you're already there in the crease, why would you want to call him out and you can just change the helmet? Or if you had faced the first ball and if you wanted the helmet strap to be changed, that was allowed. So do you reckon that rule can be changed, especially when it comes to safety concerns of an equipment? Or as Matthews was already late to come to the crease, he just made it worse?
Yeah, I think it's just a mixture of both. First of all, talking about the timed out rule, I think it's absolutely bizarre right now because we are at a day and age where you don't really need this sort of rules where a batsman will be timed out if he is not ready to face the ball within 2 minutes of the other batter getting dismissed. Having said that, I mean, Bangladesh made use of some of the ancient cricket rules that can be changed for modern times. Probably you can have a better interpretation of the rule in recent times. You can probably say that if a batsman is at the crease within the first 2 minutes, and if he is, I mean, if he is physically present, I mean that should be enough for not getting you timed out. Because I
Yeah.
think a helmet malfunctioning is not a batsman's fault. Having said that, I think Matthews should have been aware of his cricketing gears before coming into the crease, or he should have been aware of his cricketing gears or been ready with his cricketing gear once the previous batter was already playing, because this is professional cricket. You don't expect people. But then again, it was 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So if Bangladesh really wanted, they could have probably given him the benefit of the doubt. And this once again will bring out the topic of the spirit of cricket debate, because within rules, I think Shakib Al Hasan and the entire Bangladesh team were well within their rights to appeal. But
Yeah.
talking about spirit of the game, have you ever seen another team appeal for a player who has just taken 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and there
I'll
is a
tell you about
malfunctioning
this
of their
very
equipment?
interesting incident. Takes me back to South Africa 2006. Saurav
Yeah.
Ganguly came to the pitch 6 minutes late,
Yeah.
and they had asked Graeme Smith, "Do you want to go in with the appeal of timeout?" But Graeme Smith said no. It's just because of a cricketing gear, even there, that his cricketing gear was malfunctioned, and he
He
took a
was
time.
not
No, I
ready. I
think
think
no,
no.
no.
The
This
case with
was
Saurav Ganguly was
Sachin
he was not
Tendulkar
ready.
Yeah, Sachin Tendulkar was not allowed to come to bat. So Sachin was
Yeah,
the one who was getting ready. He was the one who was walking out. But
Yeah, yeah. So
Sachin
that's the
was
whole thing. So his
not
cricketing
restricted to
gear
come on to bat. Yeah.
was not present at that point. He was not in his cricketing gear, and he took his time. He had to pad up and he had to come in. So it was again a cricketing gear issue. I mean, he had to wear his pads. He wasn't ready. It's not like a number 8 gets ready when a first wicket falls or number 7 gets
yeah,
ready. So again, you
exactly.
have to be ready with the cricketing gear. Here, once again, the question was Andrew Matthews' helmet, right? Another cricketing gear issue. He wasn't ready with his helmet at that time. We see for some of the players before Virat Kohli is a prime example. He's always in his helmet before the wicket falls in itself. Not all players do that. Some players take their time. And if you look at that game, I think it was Mujib who walked in with the wrong gloves, or he didn't have an abdomen guard rather.
Yeah,
Mujib who
yeah,
walked into that. It was South Africa. I don't know which game it was. Do you
Oh, there
guys
was
remember
also an
which?
incident where this is interesting, right? There's also an incident able where I think it was a South African cricket, I mean, Sri Lankan cricket fan. I saw this on Twitter yesterday, where Bangladesh versus Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka are bowling, and I think it was Taijul Islam who did not, bring his guard, his abdomen guard, and he came on to bat. Then he came on to bat. Then he called out for the guard, and the guard was brought out. And of course,
Yeah.
the match started
You
then
know,
on.
no,
So
this time, this World Cup, it was Mujib against Bangladesh in the first game
yeah,
when he
yeah.
forgot his abdomen guard. Then there was a small halt. He had not faced his first ball. So these kind of things keep happening time and again. I mean, if you want to call it out, I think that's a little bizarre. What do you think, Jared? I mean, can the rule change, or it's again the spirit of cricket versus rule of the game debate once again?
So I mean, I'll just give you a few factors, right? If you look at the game rules, now there are two things that comes into picture. One, why has it never happened in 176 years of cricket's history? Is because there was nothing in cricket's history called over limit or over rate, which was so precisely and strictly kept. Before an over rate, you probably would get fined a 10%, 20%. But now an over rate means that you have to get one fielder in the circle, and that is a huge disadvantage in a World Cup game. This was a World Cup game. I think that's another thing that needs to be remembered. Secondly, Bangladesh was already 5-6 minutes late on that over rate issue when the wicket fell. And now, if you look at the playing conditions, right, the ICC playing conditions says that 3.5 hours are given to a team. 14.28 overs per hour is the rate, if I'm not wrong, in a
yeah,
one-day
yeah.
game you have to complete, and it includes all relatable breaks. Right, that's what it clearly says in the ICC playing conditions, that all relative breaks, that is a batter getting out, drinks breaks, everything which is expected is to be counted. Now that can be interpreted in many ways. For example, a batter not having his gear secured can be considered an irrelative break, something that is unexpected. But
Yeah.
that's also where you can ask, if was it right for Angelo Matthews? Now, no cricketer would have expected to be timed out. Right? You are not expecting Angelo Matthews to be timed out. I can understand. But maybe the better way for Angelo Matthews to go out there, probably ask the umpire instead of asking the camp to bring out a helmet right away. Ask the umpire, here's the case, my helmet is not functioning properly. Can I take a break and ask someone to get me the helmet? I think that would have stopped that appeal to come from. That's the first thing. Now you can blame Shakib there, but then you can also have to understand that the time being wasted there would
Yeah.
ultimately cost his team a player outside the circle. So it was not just spirit of cricket, but it's also whether a captain wants to take the disadvantage upon himself or not. Now, if I was a captain, you're asking me, I would have allowed it to happen because I don't want a player to risk his safety just to face one delivery. But I can understand in some extent to why Shakib resorted to it.
No, no, I can totally understand Shakib why he resorted to it. I have a very unpopular opinion. I feel the batters should be ready. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a rule where the batters have taken it. You can say they have taken it for granted that the opposition will
Yeah.
uphold to the spirit of the game. If you reach this sort of a situation, you can't have stance on one stance on, say, a man kidding. Will not call it man kidding. A run out at the bowler's end, and you cannot have a different stance for this sort of a dismissal, because if you stand by Ashwin, what he
No,
what
I
he
think
did.
man cutting is so much more different in comparison to what
No,
this rule is
but
because
Abel, listen to me. But I feel if you are dismissing somebody who is getting out of the crease, taking a slight advantage in the follow up of the batting, It is similar to a batsman you taking his own sweet time, realizing that the bowler is
I
going
think this
slower than
overrate
the
thing can
overrate.
still be adjusted in these kind of things. This is not an advantage as such. I think this could
Yeah,
be
exactly.
thought
No, no.
about even
I mean
better.
exactly the overrate thing. That is what I mentioned in the first point itself. That the timed out rule is bizarre in itself. You don't give somebody out just because he's 2 minutes late for the crease, or say 15-20 seconds late to face the first delivery. Having said that, I think these are the sort of rules that we
No,
can
the question over
go.
here is not that something, but the question is once is he physically present, as you rightly mentioned,
Yeah,
can he be timed out once being on the crease? Now, he couldn't
exactly.
be
But
timed out if he has
those
not
are the
come,
changes
if he
that
has
the
not
ICC
crossed
will
the
have to
boundary
take,
line.
right?
Now, if you
Those
look,
are
a
the
lot
changes.
of us have this perception timed out was a rule where you are timed out if you're not crossing the boundary line, right? The
Exactly.
batsman hasn't
Yeah.
entered. That was a perception of the rule until yesterday evening. Now,
Yeah.
yesterday
Yeah, it
evening, that
clearly
incident has
says,
changed the perception about the rule.
yeah, the wording clearly says, even I was under the same impression, but if you look at the wording, that is 40.1, right? 40.11 of the ICC playing conditions which apply to the Cricket World Cup. Uh, it says 2 minutes. I think the MCC rule says three. But according to this now, which takes the precedence, it says the batter has to be ready to receive the ball, or the
Yeah.
other batter has to be ready to receive the ball. So either the non-striker or the striker, whoever's responsibility it
Yeah,
is. Considering that, especially now, when a catch is taken, the striker, the new batter takes strike. It says ready to receive the ball, and that's what Angelo Matthews was not. So according to law, it is to be given out. Now, of course, the 2 minutes, whether it was 2 minutes done or not, is a debate that can be still had. But as long as the captain, the bowling captain, doesn't take the appeal, withdraw the appeal, umpires can't do anything. Their hands are tied.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean the 2 minutes was already done because Matthews was going on and explaining to Shakib as well that the strap was broken, strap of the helmet
No, I
was,
think
I mean, teared
no,
out or
Sandipani, I
something.
think once the appeal is made, that's when the time limit should be considered, right? Not
Yeah,
the rest of the explanation. If it's
exactly. But
it's still understandable
exactly,
because
but
the
I
umpires
think it
have to
was two
clarify.
minutes. Some, I mean, the according to the statement that the ICC gave out, some 2 minutes 10 seconds. Having said that, I think it totally depended on Shakib whether to withdraw the appeal or not. And if you're talking about spirit of cricket, we have had a long debate regarding this, and everybody agrees that there is nothing called the spirit of cricket unless you are claiming a catch that is not taken properly. That
Yeah.
spirit of cricket does not really apply to proper rules. So I feel
Absolutely.
he was well within his rights to appeal. Matthews should have been more careful regarding his equipments.
Yeah.
Having said that, nobody really expected it, so you really understand from where Matthews' disappointment was coming from, because nobody else in the history of say 48
Yeah.
years. And also, I think you when you're playing such high octane clashes, say India versus Pakistan or the Nagin Derby, you should be aware. You should be really at your toes. You can't
Yeah.
really afford to
And
make
to be
these sort
honest,
of
India versus
mistakes.
Pakistan do not have this many controversies as an Aghan derby, man. This is the mother of all battles at this point. I would see it was such an inconsequential game, but
Yeah.
even there, it sparked the biggest debate in cricket. So that is Nagin
But
derby
now
for you.
suddenly it has become so consequential. I mean, the if you see the bottom four, if England win against Netherlands tomorrow, then there will be four teams on 2 wins out of 8 games, and only two of them will get through to the Champions Trophy. England, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Netherlands are the four teams vying for those two
Yeah.
spots.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
has really become really interesting for the Champions Trophy
Champions
scenario as
Trophy
well.
wise,
Yeah.
yes. But it would have been nice if it was for the next World Cup rather.
And also another
That was
interesting fact
ideal.
is if Australia
Because I
win
just
today,
hate the fact that because Champions Trophy isn't the biggest of competition. Let's all agree to it. It's just one mere competition. It's not a big competition. I would
but
have
it's still
loved
a
it if it
ICC
was for
trophy,
the next
right?
World
It's
Cup.
still a ICC trophy that
No,
eludes
Evil, there's also one more thing
South
you have to
Africa.
consider. Playing in these tournaments gives automatic qualification into these tournaments, gives you certain cash prize right away. Also, the
Yeah,
fact
true,
Yeah,
that,
true.
so for example, Afghanistan, West Indies, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, all these boards need these cash prizes to, improve their
Netherlands
cricket.
for
So,
sure. I think.
Netherlands,
Netherlands, for instance,
Afghanistan.
see, that's the
Afghanistan is
reason
one
why it's
prime
such a
example
big
there.
deal. I understand maybe it's not as big as a World Cup, but there's still some cash prize there. That is the
Yeah, so
major
money is
factor.
the motive, not the
Yeah. No, you
occasion.
also
It is
get
going
a
to be a
lot more, right?
huge deal
Aside
if
from what you
Netherlands
get from
go on to play
ICC,
the
you get.
Champions Trophy for the first time ahead of
Yeah, I
England.
think Afghanistan has achieved a very big feat. I'd love to see
Yeah.
Netherlands qualify, but I don't think Netherlands will.
Yeah.
But
They've,
with
they've
how
got to
things
play
stand as
India
of
and
now,
England now. Just don't feel it.
Yeah.
England, maybe. Who knows? Who knows? I
England
mean,
might. England might.
Netherlands
England
have
has got
a
two more
history.
teams. I think
Netherlands
England
have a
will
history.
give you a couple of performances before they end the World Cup. So
No, but
I don't think
I'll
that
tell
bad
you
at all.
why Netherlands still have a chance, because if they don't lose by a huge margin against England and India, you still have Bangladesh and Sri Lanka who are going to face serious opponents in the last round as well. You have a Sri Lanka facing New Zealand, who will be extremely motivated,
Yeah.
because we are talking about the bottom of the table. If Afghanistan loses today, suddenly you have three teams: Pakistan, New Zealand, and Afghanistan, who are going to be on 4 wins out of 8, and
Mm.
out of those three, only one can make it to the semi-final. So that suddenly becomes all the more interesting as well if Afghanistan goes on to lose today. If Afghanistan wins today,
Interesting that Afghanistan have got off to a very good start here.
Yeah.
Afghanistan, if they win today, they go into the top four and they wait for either
yeah.
Pakistan or New Zealand to
So
play
this
until
has
then.
been the template for Afghanistan, right? Whenever you are batting first, you need a Rahmanullah Gurbaz to provide you the start, along with the
And not
Ibrahim
just that, the
Zatran. We have
way in
seen,
which they've been batting today. I mean, just the singles that they've been able to take, tap
yeah,
down, quick singles. I mean, that's been highlight of the batting, not just in this game, but throughout this World Cup. I mean, the
exactly.
best team was capture those small singles or quick singles in a way that, they converted those dot balls into singles, and that's this team.
And that is
I mean, a
something you
lot of
haven't
teams
seen
haven't done this in
Afghanistan
this
do
World Cup.
past. Under Asghar Afghan's captaincy, or say Gulbuddin Naib's captaincy, this was the result. Was the main reason why the campaign 2019 campaign was such a failure. 2015 campaign was not at the peak that they wanted it to reach. It is exactly because they were not able to take these singles, not rotate strike in the middle overs, something which I must say Rahmat Shah, Hasmatullah Shahidi, and say Ibrahim Zatran as well have done brilliantly.
Yeah.
And today as well, you see a Rahmanullah Gurbaz taking in singles. How have you? When was the last time you saw a Rahmanullah Gurbaz play with soft hands and take those singles? He is
Yeah.
that sort of opening player who heavily relies on momentum, and probably two or three boundaries in one of the first 3 overs really gets him going. And you don't
Yeah.
really see him rotate the strike. That has been one of the major reasons why he hasn't gone on to create an impact for KKR, or say the Afghan team in a way that he can. He has the potential to be one of the greats in the game because he
Absolutely.
has that game in him. But
I mean,
the
he's young. He's
consistency,
got he's got two games. He's showing this in this World Cup that he's just not one dimensional, and that's a
yeah,
good trait to have if you're a longer format player. And we
yeah, the
all thought
consistency is
Gurbaz
what
was
he's
this
bringing into the
flamboyant,
table
hard hitter.
recently.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that's what really sets him apart from Najib or Najibullah, who was there, or the likes of Shehzad, who was part of this team, who was all very one-dimensional. They did not have this facet of rotation of strike, which this guy has got. I think that's what's going to set him apart for the future. If he can really get going, I think not just the IPL, which I'm talking about, he can lead Afghanistan to many wins in longer formats as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think one of the bigger factors about this team is their maturity levels. As you guys have mentioned, they're ready to apply themselves, right, and play the long game. That's been one of the bigger major reasons of their failures in the past. Afghanistan is they fail to apply themselves, and is in pressure situations or situations where they're in control of the game and the opposition is looking to make a comeback. Sometimes they just let that focus slip away, but we haven't seen that yet from this team. They haven't given easy points to anyone. Even in India, I think they were one of the most challenging games still, considering how other teams have folded. And Afghanistan team scored a lot of runs against India. If I think many people don't remember how well the two batters, one of them who was their skipper, is well batted, applied themselves against that Indian
Yeah.
pace bowling attack. Then
Yeah.
again against spinners. So they
But
have
it was
not
a
given
different
easy
pitch.
2 points to
Abel,
anyone.
sorry, Jaren, I think it was Arun Jaitley, and we have seen that it has produced some really flat tracks. But yeah,
Yeah,
Afghanistan did go on
absolutely.
to score 270 odd runs after losing 3 wickets for 40-50 runs. And then you had
Yeah.
Hasmatullah Shahidi and Azmatullah Omarzai really settle the ship. And at one point, it looked like Afghanistan could go well past 300. And
300, yeah.
then I think
Yeah.
it would have been a close contest. But unfortunately, there was a later order
It
collapse.
was a one-sided affair when it comes to Indian batting. Rohit Sharma had a field day that day. So
Yeah.
now once Rohit Sharma gets going like that, you really can't stop. But Afghanistan have come out of that. It was the initial part of the World Cup. If you look at that Afghanistan team and this Afghanistan team, there is a lot of difference. I think that win against England
Yeah.
is what gave them the confidence. We spoke about it here on this live stream, right? That win is going to set them apart. Now that's going to give them the belief. It was just not that one. That gave them 3 back-to-back wins after that. And then here we are talking about them as a possible semi-final contender. So that's brilliant. I mean, that's just Afghanistan cricket at its best right now. There's the best of Afghanistan we have seen. We always spoke about dark horse in this World Cup. We thought it could be a Bangladesh or a Sri Lanka. but it looks like it's Afghanistan. I mean, like
But
it's like a
that
Morocco
Bangladesh
FIFA
game
World
is
Cup.
really coming to haunt Afghanistan right now. If they would have gotten a start against Bangladesh, I think they would have fancied their chances against Bangladesh at the start of the tournament.
Yeah,
But unfortunately, that has come back to haunt them because
yeah,
5 wins
Yeah,
out of
and
7 games would
I
have
mean,
made them
interestingly enough,
favorites.
after that first win, Bangladesh won their next game yesterday. So that's how
yeah,
bad they've been in this World Cup. And
yeah,
I think Afghanistan will feel. I think Afghanistan, the same Afghanistan, if they played Bangladesh tomorrow, they would have won that game quite easily. It was
yeah.
just
Yeah.
in Afghanistan, which they never really won a World Cup match. We spoke about it before as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Asia Cup as well, they got off to bad starts in that tournament as
Yeah.
well. They did not get going. I think semi-final होगा पाक इंडिया ऑस्ट्रेलिया साउथ अफ्रीका. अरे यार पहली बात तो एक रन न्यूजीलैंड जीतेगा तो then you guys have a long way to chase. So पाकिस्तान का अब बात नहीं करेंगे.
And
There's a
looking
lot
at
of
Sri
luck you
Lanka's
still have to
form, I
play in
don't
that game.
see them beating the New Zealand side. They have lost to Bangladesh and Afghanistan in their last 2 games. So
Yeah.
they are
I think if
absolutely
Pak versus
teetering.
India, then Pakistan ka bhul hi jao. With the form India is in Eden Gardens, I'm so sorry. I mean, that's gonna
You
be
never
one.
know. I might once again go back to Kolkata to if there is India versus Pakistan semi-finals at Eden. I might
Absolutely.
once
I
again
think
go
it'll be a
back there.
steamroll affair. I mean, that Indian bowling, we're going to have some fun there. But we're not going to talk about it. I
Number
don't
50
want
for
such easy
Kohli
oppositions
in
in the finals,
No,
semi-finals.
I mean, here's the thing,
semi-finals.
right? Here's the thing that worked for me. I have no expectations. You go ahead, do when they do well, I am happy. I celebrate just as much, but I'm not expecting them to do well every match. If they do well, great, or else let it be. You know, I'll tell you one thing though. I like when India wins. Comments like what Aisha has put right now, when they come up, just makes me feel really good more than India's win.
Yeah.
Love going
Yeah.
on Twitter and you're
I mean,
watching
to
these
be
kind
very
of comments.
honest, I just
I
understood
really
initially.
want India to
I
have that
initially
one
thought,
bad game
I
against
just had to get this
Netherlands.
point. I initially thought it was one of them from the community. I understood the entire community is delusional. I thought it was just couple of them. Then I understood the entire community is delusional. They just know how to sit there and so. I mean, I just don't want to use these phrases, but then I have no idea, man. I have no idea how do they come up with these kind of things. I mean, it's beyond my imagination. No wonder why we see them the way we see them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you one thing though. A lot of the people there, I mean, I don't want to generalize. There are quite a few who understand the ins and outs of the game and they work. That's also because they attempt, right? They try their best to understand some things, before maybe when a thought forms in your head. I'll give an advice right now. Something comes up in your head and you feel like, okay, maybe this is true. And I know this when you're going through internet, there are 50 things that will tell you, that your reality hai. But just go and search from the other perspective as well. Just do it 5 minutes, try and search from the other perspective, right? And see which one makes more logical sense. Then come to a logical conclusion. Don't just sit there, look at the first five posts, and think, okay, this is what's going to happen. Sometimes five people like to talk about stuff that actually doesn't exist because they're pushing their own agenda. So maybe try and understand the whole thing, look at the whole picture. Don't look at 1/10 of it and come to your own conclusions.
I agree. Very simple as that. There's something called delusionality, and they just think they just have to wake up sometimes from all these delusions of believing in things. Like I don't even know how do they see this game. To be honest, talking about stuff, it's just negativity all around. They just don't like
Yeah.
anybody else performing. The moment you start doing well, they try to find 55 excuses for that because their team cannot even perform in this way. Their team not have they don't have the skill to do it this way. So they trust anyways on other oppositions to lose. That's been their case in World Cups, and they just hope and pray on different things to happen. That's been their case. To be honest, that's their whole belief is in luck and the way now things go by. So whenever a team does well or outperforms others, they have
I
to bring
think
in these kind of things.
there's also one more aspect to it, Abel. You know, people talk about when they give these reasons, right? It's also because they're only used to these reasons. They're not used to a fair competition and they're not used to a match where there's no tampering or stuff like that. Sometimes in life things
Yeah,
are
I
fair.
mean, who's talking about bowel tampering when they're one of their own legend bites the ball or puts who have accepted that you know they have put zippers and they've tried to crack the ball multiple times. They call it as reverse swing kings, but we all know how it was done over the years. So I'm not surprised. I mean,
No,
they
I
are
feel
talking
that
about fair cricket. They are
if
talking about
India
fair
are
cricket.
going to
Come
have that
on,
one bad game, I would want them to have it against Netherlands, because with semifinals and finals coming up, you would really want India to be in the form that they are. They have been invincible in the group stages, which they have been over the past few years as well. So yeah, I'll keep a level head along with Jedin, and say we should be happy with what we are seeing, but not get ahead of ourselves. And I think that's what the
I
team
agree.
is
I
doing.
agree. I
I
agree. I
I
told you,
heard
we are not the best team in the world. The best team is still Pakistan. They are the greatest team on this planet
no,
Earth. There's no two ways
I
in
don't
saying that.
agree with I don't agree with all these things. I think with the performances that we are putting in, Pakistan are the number 8 team in the world, and they will probably get into the Champions Trophy only because they are hosting it, or
बीसीसीआई
they
पिच
will probably go
टैम्परिंग
into
कर रहे हैं. I just want to reply to this. अच्छा जी, हम pitch tampering कर रहे हैं. It's like we change the pitch, we put oil, we burn it, and we. I mean, let's be honest. Like you're making
I had
fun
a
of your own
tweet,
self
yeah.
by talking all this. Let's
Uh,
be very clear with that. Like you're flipping the pitch over. What is pitch tampering? Give me a definition of pitch tampering according to your legends and your eyes.
Pitch
That's it.
tampering
I
is, legends like Shahid Afridi, like he bit the ball in a similar way. Legends of the Pakistani game like Hassan Raza comes to the pitch, they roll over instead of the super stoppers and stuff like that. People use players like Hassan Raza to roll over the pitch, and
Absolutely.
then we have a pitch
Absolutely.
prepared for games. That is what pitch
Absolutely.
tampering is.
It's just awful, right? Like, I mean, I love the way how these guys are burning. I mean, they can't resist it that your team is doing well. But at the same time, you have to find it. You have to survive only on these things. You have
But
to make
I
yourself
think you should,
believe.
even for Aisha, I would really want her to. I mean, if you want to see something, look or watch something not sensible. I'll say watch something knowledgeable instead of watching players like Hassan Raza, Mohammad Hafiz, who have
Or watch some.
Hassan Raza
No,
for once
instead of spending
have been
time on
more
Twitter,
irrelevant
read
than.
something about the game. Read something about seam position. Read something about skill of a bowler. Read something about good turn. How do you produce turn of the wickets? And read something about how do you play good cricket. I mean,
No,
you
also if you
wanna.
want to watch some Pakistani content as well, watch the four experienced players. You would rather choose
Yeah,
a
watch your
Wasim Akram
legends
over
talk.
a Mohammad Hafiz any day.
oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I
I mean, I
mean,
agree with you.
that show, I'll be very frank, it's one of the shows where, there's not a lot of, there's equal amount of criticism and equal amount of, appreciation. If there is something that goes well, all of them appreciate it. And I'll be very frank, after every Pakistan game, that's one of the first shows that I go and watch, once they post their whole
Same.
live, post live.
I
I
do
love
that too
watching the
as
show.
well.
Uh, and some of the things that they mentioned, now I know there are still things that I would question, but that's also because of, my
Yeah.
patriotism and the fact that India is my team. Sometimes I don't agree with them, but at least if I have to look at all the shows that I have, opportunities that I have on YouTube or on Twitter, their opinions are the only ones where I see a little bit of logic
There
still
were a lot of
available.
Indian shows as well, to be very honest.
And
So their
yeah,
way of
Yeah,
looking at
Indian
game
shows
is so
also
much
do a
like
lot
how
of these
they
things.
how they played it, and that's very clear. I mean, if you want to
no, no,
watch
and
good
also I
content,
think
watch
talking
that.
about all these bizarre comments, say like India are using a new ball for the second innings or stuff like that. People usually say these things to stay in relevance. Otherwise, you think about a Hassan Raza. Who would have heard his name? I mean, he was playing for Pakistan for 1 2 games, kicked out of the team, kicked out of all the positions. He was asked on one of the games. He thought that if he could say something this explosive, he will stay in relevance. That is why players like Mohammad Hafiz, and then you see a lot of Pakistani players go on to say such negative things only
Yeah,
because they want the traction. I mean,
yeah,
most of even A Sports as well. We are obviously praising them, but their motto is also. I mean, their audience is also mainly Indians. I mean, how many Pakistani audience is obviously there for TV and stuff like that. But the internet audience, most of Indian fans are there for and goes on to watch A Sports as well. So they'll have to cater to a specific type of audience, and they very well know. And players like Hassan Raza, Mohammad Hafiz, they very well know what exactly to say trigger some sort of hate or trigger a big controversy. So
yeah.
I think it's just a way to, I mean, produce such controversies. There is nothing in it,
Absolutely.
and then people have understood that criticism is also good. People will remember. People will criticize about you for say 1 or 2 weeks, and then everybody will forget about the Hassan Raza incident, and then Hassan Raza will come out and say something really interesting or something nice about the Indians, and everything will be done and dusted. Everything will be back in the past, and we will know Hassan Raza. Hassan Raza's name will be in our memory for
Absolutely.
some time, or not. So
Absolutely.
this is just a
Uh,
strategy to get popular.
I think one of our users was banned right now for racist comments. I think that's what you get. So whoever is saying racist comments or regionalist comments, just be very careful. YouTube is we're not the ones banning it. YouTube guidelines
Yeah,
in itself are very strict in
yeah.
terms of
I
that.
mean, I think very recently, you guys have heard
Yeah,
of
there
that
was a comment
Rob
calling
Linda one?
Indians as black and
Yeah,
calling
yeah.
as Hindus or something of that sort was used on the comments right now,
Yeah.
and the user got banned.
So
I mean,
YouTube
be very
algorithms
careful.
become very strict for on two things now. One is community guidelines and one is copyright guidelines as well. I think Rob Linda recently got his channel banned forever
Yeah, yeah,
because of
yeah. Very.
copyright strike, and it was a very unreasonable copyright strike. But
Yeah, it
it
was
just
banned by a Bangladeshi channel with 54
yeah,
subscribers.
yeah, precisely. But I think they, and as far as I know, they themselves don't have any copyright claim on it, or their copyright claim was not verified itself.
And
But
unfortunately, that Marhaba cricket got hacked as well by some people, funnily
yeah,
enough. So
yeah.
it is what
So
it
And
is.
as
these
we
So
things
that's
speak,
are
I
about
all
it.
think
very
Ramanullah
strict.
Gurwas has been dismissed, and we have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Rahmat Shah at the crease.
Yeah, the scorecard is live out there on the screen for you all as well. 41 for 1, 814 overs. And Maxwell is bowling right now. It's going to be very interesting. The pitch is slightly holding up. I think it's because of the early moisture as well. It is not quite coming onto the bat, but I think it will as the game progresses. So that's about it from us, guys. Thank you all for joining and see you all very soon. Bye bye, and we'll be back for post match. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye, guys.